Hey guys, Plev here, and today I'm going to be teaching you how to fly and fight in the Spitfire MkVb. The MkVb famously served with 9 other countries besides the United Kingdom, including the Soviet Union, Canada, and the United States. Over 6,500 Mark Vs were produced between 1941 and 1943, and it saw service with over 140 different RAF squadrons. Considered a stopgap fighter, the Spitfire Mark V was designed to buy time for the Spitfire Mark III to enter service. And while the Mark III never entered service, many of the upgrades that it featured ended up in the Mark V regardless. The aircraft was created by pairing a Rolls-Royce Merlin 45 with the body of a Spitfire Mark I. The aircraft comes standard configuration with a Mark 46 engine, however, and the Mark 45 has to be selected by an upgrade. This is because this is the way it was sent to the Soviet Union, and the aircraft dropped with the Battle of Kuban pack as a collector plane. The Merlin 45 is better optimized for low to medium altitudes, while the Merlin 46 has a modified supercharger for higher altitude performance. The supercharger for both is single stage. Let's begin by binding controls that are unique to this aircraft. In the settings menu, let's go to key mapping. From there, come to the plane engine controls tab and come down to ensure your water radiator shutter control axis is bound. By default, this will be right control minus and right control equals, but I have it bound to my throttle. Oil radiators are not manually controlled in this aircraft by default. As you open the water radiator, it'll open in increments of 20. As you close it, it will also close in increments of 20. You'll see the lever to the pilot's left hip move as you do. Now let's go to plane controls. The aircraft utilizes a braking lever on the control stick, which allows the pilot to release braking pressure to the side that he is applying the rudder. On the left lower console, you can see your brake pressure increase as you apply the brakes. If I was to put left pedal in, you'll notice that pressure to the left remains while pressure to the right is dropped, and vice versa. Why don't we get familiar with the cockpit? On our left wing is a peg, which when extended indicates that our landing gear are down. We have the same on our right wing. On your left, you have the mixture with full rich to the rear, your throttle, which you should crack prior to takeoff, and your RPM governor controls. It's worth noting that the mixture can only be in either auto lean or auto rich, with auto rich to the aft towards us and auto lean forward. This aircraft only has 2 options or settings for its flaps, with up or down being indicated by this lever. There is no way to set it incrementally. Below our oxygen gauge, we have an analog clock above our brake pressure indicator, and to the right of that, we have a gear indicator that is currently not illuminated, with either up or down being options. Red indicating up, green indicating down. Now let's move on to the center console. On the upper left, we have our anemometer, or our essentially airspeed indicator, showing miles per hour. To its right and below our gun sight, we have our artificial horizon, which, since the aircraft is turned off, is not giving us any information. To the right of the artificial horizon, you have your vertical speed indicator showing either climb or descent in thousands of feet per minute. To the lower left, we have our altimeter. In the center, we have our gyroscopic compass. In the real aircraft, the pilot would have to pause the gyroscope and thus the compass, and actually, once leveled out, readjust to the correct heading referencing a magnetic compass. On the bottom right, we have our side slip indicator. The top needle refers to your side slip, while the bottom needle shows your rate of turn to the left or right. On the right, we have our RPM indicator on the upper portion of the right console. To the lower right of that, we have our boost gauge showing pounds of pressure. The boost can be compared to a manifold pressure in Western World War II era fighters. I know this is a little boring, guys, but we got to get you familiar with the cockpit so you can properly fly this airplane. The orange gauge on the left here indicates our oil inlet temperature, while the right gauge indicates our radiator outlet temperature. For startup, it's important that you set the mixture forwards to auto lean to avoid overcooling the engine. The fuel gauge will show gallons of fuel remaining in the lower tank, with the top numbers indicating an accurate reading when the tail is on the ground and the bottom numbers when in normal flight. In order for this to function, you must press the bottom tank push button with right shift I. You must hold it as long as you want to get a reading. Crack the throttle slightly. Here I'll crack it to about 20%. I think we're ready to start the aircraft. But first, let's look over a few things. First of all, our water radiator. Let's just confirm that we have it set to 60% open. We'll crack our throttle to 10%. I am going to set the RPM to 100%. I am going to set the mixture to auto rich. And I think we're ready to go. I'll grab the brakes. Remember, this aircraft does not have a tailwheel lock either. I'll press E to initiate the startup. I'm going to give it a little bit of throttle just to avoid overcooling, still holding those brakes. Throttling back now because once you throttle around 20%, you get a lot of tail authority here on the ground. We will leave the canopy open so we can lean out if we need to look out for traffic. Seeing none, we will release the brakes, increase throttle a little bit. Using rudder, not brakes right now. We've got brakes if we need them. And we'll brake, tapping them to slow us down. Looking around. Before we get running up. Before takeoff, let's hold the brakes down. Let's set our RPM to 100%. Start to throttle up. All this while holding brakes. We're going to release the brakes, go up to 12 boost, using right rudder to keep us going down center line. Keeping the nose down, rotating around 115, 120. Airborne at 140. Gear up. Throttling back a bit.
This is Acorn Leader, airborne.
The oil radiator can be fully opened during climb and regular flight. Up at altitude now, let's talk about engine management. Both the default Mark 46 and the Mark 45 have very similar engine parameters and performance regimes. Pressing O, we can come to the top right of our screen to find the specification menu where we can find plenty of data on our aircraft. We have the engine specifications and performance regimes for the Merlin 46 and Merlin 45 engines pulled up now. You can see they do indeed share the parameters with each other. Max cruise power, which we can hold indefinitely, can be held at 2650 RPM and plus 7 boost. Now let's move on to international power mode. International power mode can be achieved at 2850 RPM and 9 boost. We can hold this for 30 minutes. By pressing the boost on/off keybind, we can actually achieve 16 pounds of boost. This activates emergency all-out mode or war emergency power and can be held for 3 minutes before damaging the engine. The Spitfire's corner airspeed, or the speed at which it can do its best sustained turn, is 167 miles per hour. Its top speed varies between 371 to 375 miles per hour depending on the engine variant and altitude. In a separate video, I'll talk more in depth about that. Now let's talk about weapons. The B variant features an elliptical wing. featuring 20mm Hispano cannons and Browning light machine guns. The Browning 303 machine guns have 1,400 rounds of ammunition, and the Hispano Mark II has 120 rounds. Standard RAF doctrine was to zero for 250 yards or 230 meters. However, early war, they tried 400 meters with relatively mixed success. I prefer 230 meters. The 20mm guns feature 60 rounds per cannon, while the Browning 303 or 7.7mm guns have 350 rounds per gun. The aircraft is roughly evenly matched against the German Bf 109 F4. However, it is absolutely superior at low speeds. It struggles at higher speeds with maneuverability. The FW-190s of all variants can outroll this variant of the Spitfire. Now that we're roughly familiarized with the aircraft, let's go ahead and land. Before flying our approach, take note that if you throttle back with the gear up, the aircraft will have a siren activate. I'm trimming the nose up as I throttle back, and I'm trying to achieve a airspeed of about 150, 140 for our approach. Let's be mindful of our altitude here. When I hit 150, closer in, I'm going to drop my flaps as I intercept the glide slope. At 160, I'm going to drop the undercarriage. I'm going to drop flaps. Keeping her nice and trimmed out. She's got a very narrow undercarriage. We're going to be careful not to flip her. A little power. We're doing just fine here. We're going to try and touch down between 85 and 100 miles per hour. Arresting that descent rate. We're going to try and get a nice 3-point landing. Very nice. Let's taxi over the parking. With our canopy open, we can look past the nose for obstructions. We can press E to stop the engine. All right, guys, this has been a IL-2 tutorial with Plev. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if this has helped you out. Thanks for watching. Plev, out.